Tonight's topic is equanimity. And I wanted to share this with you because I've been working on it myself. I realized that I had a lot of very strong opinions, and the politics of the last few months in the US have really brought those to my awareness. And I wanted to take a personal look at that, and I did so through the lens of equanimity. So what is equanimity? It helps to have some kind of a working definition before we can really get to knowing what we're talking about. So let's start with a dictionary definition, which says mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. That's a great definition. That's something that I can aspire to. It's like, yes, I would like to have that in my life, in my personality. Then we can look at it a little bit more. We can break down the etymology from the Latin. Equus means even, and animus means the mind or the soul. So we want to have an even heart mind. I'm going to put it into Buddhist English, an even heart mind. And we want to have composure that's undisturbed by experience of or exposure to emotions, pain, or other phenomena that may cause people to lose the balance of their mind. Sometimes things are going to happen and we're going to lose the balance of our mind. It's how quickly can we get it back. For example, I recently put a nail into a wall so I could hang the lovely calendar that Marion made for me. Finally, it's only taken me like 5 weeks before I got the thing up. But luckily, I did not hit my thumb with the hammer. But if I had, I guarantee I would have lost my equanimity, at least briefly. There might have been some cussing. There could have been some hopping up and down on one foot. Then I would have gone for the ice and calmed down. But so it's not just about, oh no, I failed, I wasn't equanimous. It's not like that. It's just, we're going to get knocked down occasionally. How fast do we get back up? How soon do we go, oh, okay, that happened. I don't want this to swell. Let me get some ice. This virtue of equanimity is extolled in many of the world's religions, not just Buddhism, and many philosophical systems as well. We're not going to go through all of those today, but we are going to talk about in Buddhism, how do we define that? And here's a definition I found online from Gil Fronsdal. He says, neither a thought nor an emotion. It's rather the steady, conscious realization of reality's transience. I read this to my husband and he says, that doesn't mean anything to you. And I said, that's because you don't study impermanence. But if you studied impermanence and reality's transience, then you would go, oh, okay, then yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. So we have to look at it through that lens. It's the ground for wisdom and freedom and the protector of compassion and love. I like how he says that. Because if we have equanimity, that does protect our compassion and our love. While some may think of equanimity as dry neutrality or cool aloofness, mature equanimity produces a radiance and warmth of being. The Buddha described a mind filled with equanimity as, quote, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Equanimity comes up a couple of times in Buddhism. Well, several times, but I'm going to talk about two. One of those times is in the Four Immeasurables. And that's where the Buddha taught us what literally the Brahma Viharas or divine abodes, which are traditionally loving kindness. I say traditionally because they're in this order traditionally. Loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Tibetan Buddhists start with equanimity and then double back and do the other three in order because they think it's important to kind of level out that self versus other thing that we all have going on before proceeding. Either way you study them is fine. The other place that I want to mention that equanimity comes up in Buddhism is in the jhanas, or these rarefied meditative states. And at some point we pass through bliss and arrive at equanimity. When I first read that, I went like, no, No, that doesn't make any sense to me. I want the bliss. I want the happiness. And then I lived my life and I realized, oh yeah, I can't dwell in that state permanently. That kind of excited happiness, that, oh boy, it's Christmas, I'm going to open my presents. We can't stay there. We're not wired for it. The brain won't support it. The hormones won't support it. The body won't support it. It's not how we're meant to be. And that's okay. So what's beyond that? Equanimity. When the joy comes, we embrace it. And when the joy fades, we embrace it. That's equanimity. We appreciate these good emotions as they come, and we appreciate them as they depart. And we say, okay, that was wonderful. And this isn't bad either. Okay. In Christianity, equanimity is considered essential for carrying out certain virtues like modesty, gentleness, contentment, temperance, and charity. Equanimity is like the foundation upon which you build these other qualities. So I thought that was very interesting. And I mentioned Christianity because I was raised Christian. I think most of us here in this group were raised Christian. So it's nice to see when there's some commonality between the path of our youth and the path that we're on in this moment. This morning, I received a newsletter in my email inbox from a gal in Australia whom I've been following for years. Her name is Leonie Dawson. And she was writing about pronouns. I don't know if you've been seeing people doing this for the last year or so, but if they have a signature file on their email, underneath there, they'll put like, in my case, it would be she, her, hers. Those are the pronouns that I use. And I've never done that, but I probably should for a couple of reasons. One, Myodo, who the heck, if you're not Korean, knows if that's masculine or feminine, and it could probably be either one. And then secondly, even if you do know me, you don't know necessarily what pronouns I prefer, how I identify unless I tell you. So in Leonie's case, she said she's good with she or they. She says, I'm comfortable with either. But here's where it gets interesting in her newsletter. She said, I want to make some things very clear. One, and I'm only going to go through point one with you. At some point, I may decide to share about my journey of discovering my pronouns. I may not, however, and that is absolutely my right. When someone shares their pronouns, you are not entitled to ask why. You aren't entitled to know their innermost fears, vulnerabilities, and sensitivities. The correct response would be to say, cool, thanks for letting me know, and then use their pronouns. And if you're comfortable, you may also wish to say, oh, my pronouns are these. Here's where she gets into equanimity. Nobody owes you their story or needs to justify their right to exist and self-identify. Just as when someone shares their sexual orientation with you, the correct response is cool beans, not, but why? So, equanimity. Everybody has a right to be here. That's really what we're talking about when we talk about Buddhist equanimity, at least as it pertains to people and sentient beings. So we all have that right to be here, and nobody has to justify their right to exist. I saw those words, they jumped off the page at me, and I thought, that's equanimity, the way we look at it in Buddhism. So that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't mean we're going to like everybody. It doesn't mean we're going to agree with everybody. We can respect people that we don't like. We can acknowledge that someone has a right to be here, even if we're not friends with that person. That's okay. That's normal, okay? But we still respect them. Now, the same is true, we're talking about other people, but also emotions, like our own emotions. I mentioned that had I hit my thumb with the hammer, I'd have been very upset because I would have been in pain. It is okay for me to feel my feelings. It's not necessarily okay for me to act on them. Depends on what they are, right? If I get angry with someone, if someone does something to me that I feel anger about that situation or toward that person, I'm allowed to feel that, but I may not be allowed to act on it, depending on what action I'm contemplating. Does that make sense? I can say, you know, when you said that right now, I got really hurt. Can we talk about that? That's a good reaction. That would take me at least 20 minutes to come up with, by the way. In the heat of the moment, I'm like, rah! So I have to walk away. I have to, okay, I need a timeout. And by the way, if you tend to be an emotional person like I am, a 20-minute timeout can be a lifesaver because it takes your bloodstream 20 minutes to filter out all the cortisol and other stress hormones. So walk away for 20 minutes, do something else, think about something else, let it all process, come back, handle it like a grown-up. I had to learn how to do that. So when we're practicing equanimity, we can feel our feelings, and we don't have to say, oh, I wish I wasn't such an angry person. I wish I didn't have all this. I just accept that this is how I am. And by the way, I'm much less this way now than I was. You know, I don't get angry like that hardly ever anymore, but I used to get angry a lot. But I accept that that's part of me. And I don't try to get rid of it. I try to work with it and process it and act like a grown-up when it does rear its ugly head. So that's part of equanimity with my feelings. All my feelings are here. They have a right to exist in here. They don't necessarily have a right to exist out there, but in here, it's all fine. I'm going to experience joy and I'm going to experience sadness. The Tao talks about 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows, and that's okay. I can accept all of that stuff with equanimity. That's part of me. That's part of my emotional makeup. I just accept that that's the way that it is. Then the same thing is also true with beliefs. Some people are going to have beliefs and opinions that I don't agree with. But equanimity teaches me that they have a right to have those beliefs. Now that I've said that, are there exceptions? Nobody's saying anything, so I'll help you. As long as it stays in here, or maybe right here, just talking to two people, we're okay. But if somebody thinks that throwing babies, sorry, Mason, into a volcano is a good idea, then perhaps that's not something that we want to do, right? We know better now as a society. We say, no, we don't throw babies into volcanoes. What are you talking about? That's horrible. So does a person have the right to believe that? Maybe, but do they have the right to act on it? No, absolutely not. Does that make sense? So we want to respect other people's opinions, other people's beliefs under this umbrella of equanimity. And this goes for politics as well. But it's not carte blanche permission to go break the law and be immoral and do all of those sorts of things. So that's what I mean when I talk about, are there exceptions? Well, you have to look at it. That's one of the things I love about Buddhism, is it's very rare that you have something that is like, this is the way, this is the only way, you must do it this way every time. There's a couple of those, but not very many. Mostly we have to figure it out for ourselves. So we would have to take a look at that and see, how am I going to handle that? If it's a difference of opinion in a conversation with my brother, because we are very polar opposites politically and religion-wise, we can have a rational discussion about it and nobody gets their feelings hurt and it's all good. But I make sure that I go vote to cancel his out. So, so when we're talking about taking action, that can become a different kettle of fish. All right, so equanimity, everybody has a right to be here. They have a right to their beliefs. We have a right to ours. Everyone can feel their feelings. We may not be able to act on them depending on what that action is going to be. Toward the end of his life, Krishnamurti gave us a beautiful quote. He was talking to his followers and he said, do you want to know my secret? And then he said, I don't mind what happens. This is the essence of inner freedom. It is a timeless spiritual truth. Release attachment to outcome. Deep inside yourself, you'll feel good no matter what. Attachment. Hey, there's our word. We use that word in Buddhism, right? We say that at one extreme, we're attached to something. And at the other extreme, we don't like it at all. Equanimity is the middle way, right? So we want to try to not mind what happens. We want to be in acceptance, as Larry said so beautifully a couple of weeks ago. We don't want to just grudgingly accept it and growl about it. Well, I guess that's okay. No, we want to say, okay, if there's nothing I can do to change this thing, then I'm going to accept this thing. I'm going to make peace with it. I'm going to make peace with myself. That's really getting to the core of equanimity. Now, the caveat, the warning that I have personally experienced, the shadow side of equanimity. Is there such a thing as too much of a good thing? Well, there could be if you do it wrong, which I did there for a little while as I was working on this stuff. And that is when we get to the point where we're apathetic. We get a little too detached. Because equanimity can lead to a little bit of a sense of detachment, right? If we're not going to be attached, what's the opposite of attachment? Detachment. Notice we're still caught in dualistic thinking when we do that. That's not where we want to end up. So we can detach too far and get to the point where we don't care anymore. And where I don't mind what happens because I don't, is Mason out of the room? Is he, I don't give a damn. Okay. So I don't want to teach words to the 3-year-old. He'll pick them up sooner or later. It doesn't need to be through me. So we don't want to get to that point where we say, I don't give a damn. There's an old joke. My dad used to love this joke. It's about a survey taker who shows up at the door. And the survey taker asks the homeowner, he explains, I'm taking this survey and I'm trying to find out what is the greater problem facing our nation today, ignorance or apathy? And the homeowner says, I don't know. And what's more, I don't give a damn. Okay. So there you go. For the rest of his life, until my father died at 80, how old was he? 87. If you ask him a question he didn't know the answer to, he would just say, I don't know. And what's more? And he would just leave it right there. So we can get to that point if we're not careful, to where we don't care. And it is a way of keeping ourselves from becoming hurt. But that's not what we're trying to do, because if we wall off too much, then we have a problem manifesting loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy. Remember the 3 that lead to equanimity. So we have to really balance the emotions in a way that doesn't deny the emotions. So we still feel our feelings, we still notice things, but I don't even want to use the word try, because that's not really what we're doing. It's more allowing these things to flow past. This has been my own equanimity journey. I don't try to be equanimous. I don't try to not like or dislike. It's more like allowing my experiences to pass by like clouds in the sky. There's nothing I can do about clouds in the sky. They form, they stay for a certain length of time, and they dissipate. And there's no control that I have over this. So I may as well just sit there and enjoy them. Enjoy the heavy thunder clouds, enjoy the light fluffy clouds, enjoy the clear blue sky. That's what equanimity leads us to. It's not that we're bland, as I was reading earlier. It's not a denial of our emotions. It's more getting to where we can enjoy darn near anything. I don't think I'd enjoy hitting my thumb with that hammer, but most things that arise, I can enjoy, I can accept, I can say, okay, this is how it is. And even if it's something that I am hoping will pass soon, I can still just be with it while it's here, knowing that it will pass. Remember that line about transience that I read to you? Impermanence. nothing's going to be here forever. My father, I'm quoting him a lot today, told me that one of the main things he loved about being in the military was the constant change. His assignments lasted, he was a career officer. His assignments lasted on average 4 years. And he said, that means that if you have to work with or for someone you really don't get along with, you know it's not going to be more than 4 years. And it would probably be less because when you rotate in, they've already been there for a couple years. So then they'll rotate out after a couple years and you'll get somebody new. So no matter how bad the situation was, it's going to change. And he could pretty much put a date on it. And I thought, that's a really interesting. I like that idea. We can't put a date on all the things in our lives, but that can help us with equanimity, this idea of impermanence, knowing that this too shall pass. It's not going to be this way forever. So we can better just allow things to be, accept things as they are, and increase our equanimity. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Everyone's ready for the test. Okay, clear your desks, get out a pen. No, wait, wrong environment. That was when I taught college. Okay, no, we're good. All right, so we're going to meditate now. And one of the ways that you can meditate is to contemplate what I was just talking about. And you don't want to think about it and start ruminating, but if something really stuck with you, then you might replay it in your mind and then begin your meditation and see what comes up. Or you can simply work with your breath. Whatever you'd like to do is fine. It's your meditation. So let's begin.